of years ago, it was more like 4 out of 10 hadn't got orders raised prior to the invoice being received. This is an organisational responsibility, actually, because orders are raised by departments, they're not raised centrally. There is no central ordering system here. So they're done on a decentralised basis. We've mail-shotted suppliers probably 3 or 4 times to say that we will only pay an invoice on production of a valid purchase order. And that has been a softer approach. But more recently, we took a firmer line on where we said, absolutely, no invoices will be paid until such time as a purchase order has been quoted. And that has really tightened this up, because obviously, as Councillor Whittington is rightly saying, it runs several risks, not least of which, in terms of having an accurate position on our financial position. If we haven't got orders in the system, we've got no idea of the financial exposure the council has at any one time. So it's vitally important orders are raised in a timely and responsible way and actually match the invoice when it comes in. So it's an absolute valid point. I would love that to be no instances, but I think pragmatically, I would take 1 out of 10. That's not to say we're complacent, but I think that is a significant improvement on where we've been on this issue in the past. And as rightly been pointed out, there are occasions where 0 purchase orders are acceptable. And actually what we're doing is working with the teams to develop a list of where we will accept a 0 purchase order. So, because there are particular areas where that would be a responsible thing to do. In terms of the supplier bank information, we're actually slightly odds with audit findings on this. We don't fully accept what they found. They're writing saying there is no evidence, but they're not writing saying the checks aren't being done. So as we've said in our response, every single one is checked by the senior accountant. So before any system changes are made on supplier bank accounts, we validate it as much as we're able to validate it. And of course, there are all sorts of risks around when suppliers or people posing to be from a supplier say, can we change these bank account details? It takes a lot of checking to make sure that that is a valid request from a kosher application that's come in. So we're saying we are checking them all. What we're saying and what we do accept is the audit trail to verify that check's been made. It wasn't there when audit asked for it. So that's part of the procedure we've tightened up. So we do now sign off appropriately when a supplier information has been actioned onto the system. Thank you.
The Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for that, Richard. My concerns relate back to what you said, Richard, about the leavers. And I think you gave us some assurance on that, really, because it seems to me it's fundamental if people leave, then HR should tell the ICT team to cut them off from the system straight away. And that's obviously not been happening. Did I read it right, Richard, that you're saying we will get an email and you confirm, get some assurance that now that HR will tell the ICT team that people will be cut off straight away when they leave and there won't be a delay? And it's not in your remit though, is it?
Within Alan Robinson's areas, but I'll work with Alan because clearly when somebody leaves the authority, it's not just IT that needs to be notified, it's obviously access to the building that needs to be stopped as well. They'll have a pass, so that needs to be deactivated. They'll have a car parking pass that needs to be suspended. So there are all sorts of triggers once somebody announces they're leaving or has to leave immediately. So it's not just about the IT, but clearly that is a key element, but it's making sure that system works in a timely way and all the relevant departments are notified in a timely way. But it's not my action, and I'm hoping the person is well onto it, but we'll email out to the committee to give you that confirmation.
With you then, Alan. I mean, presumably it starts off with HR. I don't think we've got an HR manager at the moment. So is this a staffing problem in HR that's caused this, or if you'd like to answer?
No, it's just a process on that particular, on some of those cases. My understanding is that this is now up and running, but I'm like Richard, I'd like to check that and write out to the team. It's not a matter of capacity. It's It's just a process that needs to be enacted and should have been. So my apologies for that, but we'll ensure that it is in future.
Jackie Smith.
Yes, I just wondered whether certainly on purchases or anything above a certain amount, whether 2 signatures are required or 1 signature, just by way of precaution.
Richard.
Chairman, the financial regulations set out the criteria for approvals. So there's thresholds that are set out and they are replicated in the system. So depending on the level of the order, it'll require separate approvals as the amount increases. So that is built in, yes.
Sue Woolley.
Thank you, Chairman. It was something that Councillor Wood said, which has just reminded me of in another place. Do we make sure that as far as the emails are concerned or the cascading of information goes to the departments concerned rather than individuals in the department? Because something that got flagged up to me, which I wouldn't have thought about, was that, well, you send it to Joe Bloggs in HR, which is fine as long as Joe Bloggs is there every single day of the week, rather than, have we got generic email addresses so that it doesn't matter who's working in HR, it is picked up, even if somebody's either off sick or they're on holiday, so that there aren't any delays at all.
Yeah, so all the areas that I quoted in the example I gave have all got generic email clusters. So there's HR at South East Even, and all the team in HR have access to that inbox. Similarly, facilities management and similarly IT. So they don't go to a single individual, they go to a hub of which all the officers in those teams have access to. Yeah.
I think everybody seems happy with those answers at the end of the matter. So can we now go on to agenda item 5B, where I've got to exclude the press and public because of the nature of the event under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972. The press and public will be excluded from the meeting during this listed item of business, on the grounds that if they were to be present, exempt information could be disclosed to them as defined in paragraph 3